Well, blessed fourth Sunday of Advent. Not Christmas yet. I know many people say Merry Christmas. Not yet, as Catholics. Remember, we wait to the very last minute. Still the fourth Sunday of Advent. But as you can see, we're getting ready for Christmas. We have 10 fresh cut Christmas trees in the sanctuary. The most in St. Mary's Parish history. Apparently, from what the old timers tell me, it's always a competition in my mind. So that's why I'm always trying to do the most ever, the most this, the most that, the most snacks, the most donuts. But 10 fresh cut Christmas trees. I was in the mountains for 6 years before coming here, and I called up my old parishioners. I said, "Hey, I want to deck out St. Mary's with fresh Christmas trees." I'm not a fan of anything fake, so I love fresh anything. And so we got 10 fresh cut Christmas trees. Only cost $60, $60 for the permits. And so the men in my old parish went out to the woods, cut them down, dragged them out, and all we had to do was go up there and pick them up. And so 10 fresh cut Christmas trees. And on Christmas Day, we'll flip the lights. And this place will be gorgeous. We tested them out, and sure enough, it was stunning. And then even the outside lights as well should be done by Christmas. And it will also be the most lights in St. Mary's Parish history, ideally. Again, why all the big fuss? Like the old saying goes, go big or go home. Because something amazing is going to happen on Christmas. Our churches will be packed in a couple of days. Many of those people that will be coming here are visiting family and friends coming in from out of town. But also our non-practicing brothers and sisters will come. And all these places will be full, and rather, when I see the crowds come, again, speaking from my fatherly heart, my heart explodes with joy to see them. Even though I don't see them throughout the year, but rather what I pray for, and this is where I want to elicit your help. In a few moments when we enter into the second part of the Mass, the liturgy of the Eucharist, will you please help me bring all of those souls that will be coming on Christmas Eve, on Christmas Day. I want you to bring them to the altar. And I want us who are practicing Catholics to beg God, Lord, deepen our faith. And I say our and not their faith as if we're the exemplars of perfect faith. No! The reason why we come to Mass is precisely why? Because we know that we're weak and we're broken and that we need God. And so when our non-Catholic brothers and sisters, and in fact a percentage of them that will be coming on Christmas Day, probably even have no faith, but they're just coming with their family and friends as part of their family traditions. And let's beg our Father, deepen our faith. And just like I'm sure many of you are planning and you're hosting your family get-togethers, and when you know your family is coming over, what do we all do to prepare? We clean the house, of course. Make it as if our house looks like this 24/7, right? We decorate the tree, we decorate the house, we put everything out to welcome our dear family and friends. Same thing here, why went through all the trouble and put up 10 fresh cut Christmas trees where we could easily put up fake Christmas trees. We have them in storage. We could easily put them out. Why all the fuss, again, putting up Christmas lights dangling from the roof, right? Well, because family is coming. When we read the scriptures today, I want us to read it from the perspective of a first century Jew. Because all of the readings today highlight that someone is coming. And all of the imagery that's laced throughout these layers of readings is that this person that is coming is royalty. Imagine how much more preparation, how much more cleaning we would do if we knew that a king was coming to our house on Christmas. The first reading from the book of the prophet Micah is laced with this language of royalty. So Micah was a prophet in the 8th century BC. So 800 years before the coming of Jesus, Prophet Micah is predicting that one day someone will come. And this is where we enter into that first reading. Thus says the Lord, you Bethlehem Ephrathah, too small to be among the clans of Judah. Now listen here. From you shall come forth for me one who is to be the ruler of Israel, whose origin is from old, from ancient times. You see, Bethlehem, for the first century Jewish person, immediately knows that from Bethlehem would come, from the line of King David, an offshoot, a descendant of David, would be born from that region. So whenever my first century hearer, when I hear Bethlehem, immediately I know the Davidic royal lineage is what comes to my mind. And so what the prophet Micah is saying here is, yes, from you, Bethlehem, from the region where King David was born, for where his family came forth, from you, from an offspring from your line, would come a future king. This is 800 years before Jesus, the coming of this king. What is the role of this king? He shall return to the children of Israel, stand firm and shepherd the flock. Again, why this language of shepherding, of guiding, of bringing? Because again, first century hearers, when I think of a shepherd, what do I think? Oh, I'm thinking of scattered sheep. And what is the role of the shepherd? To seek out the lost and to gather them in. You see, the role of this king will be one to gather the scattered, broken family. In this time period of the Jewish people, because they were broken. But then also now, to scatter, look at scattered humanity and to bring them back. We all know that we are broken. You know that, right? You know that we all suffer mightily. We're filled with anxiety and fear. We worry about the future. We worry about our kids. We worry about this. We worry about that. I dare say, every other answer will fail to answer this darkness. I dare say that every other answer the world proposes for us to find peace, to find happiness, will always fall short if the answer is not Jesus Christ. In the beautiful responsorial psalm that we had, that beautiful hymn that we sang and we repeated, it was stunning. From Psalm 80, it says, let us see your face, and we shall be saved. Pope Benedict, when he was elected Pope in 2005, he immediately began as part of his ministry as the Pope, despite the workload that he had, of course, to govern. Could you imagine to govern a church that's 1.2 billion people, and it's in every nation and country, just try to guide this church? He decided to use his spare time, what little of it he had, to write a series of books. Because he was a scholar, and he's probably one of the most brilliant theologians we've ever had. Again, this is not me saying, commentators say this. Pope Benedict's mind was one of the most brilliant minds in Christianity, I dare say. And he set out to write a series of books. He will go on to write 3. But in the first one, simply called Jesus of Nazareth, he asks and poses the question, what did Jesus Christ bring to the world? Because obviously when we look at the world, we don't see world peace. No. Again, other social commentators will say that right now we're on the brink, as when you look at the world, the whole globe as part of worldly conflicts and conflict between nations, that we're at a tense point in human history, not since we've seen since World War II, prior to it. Again, I don't know, this is what social commentaries say. We don't see more world peace. Or in our own lives, we don't see more peace and tranquility. In fact, just because we're practicing Catholicism doesn't mean our lives are smooth. In fact, it's like complete opposite sometimes. And so we ask the question, well, what did Jesus Christ bring? And he begins as the introduction to his book. If not world peace, if not the end to suffering. And Pope Benedict simply said, Jesus brings God. He brings God. And when we see this, let us see your face for the responsorial psalm. When Christ now will enter into the world. Why? It is to bring us back together around him. In order to unite our families, it's not some veil feeling up in the ether. And we all know this. In order to unite a family, you need a central figure. You need a person. Which is why sometimes when we hear, we've done a lot of funerals for the past couple of days. Back-to-back funerals. It's been heavy the past couple of weeks. It's been very busy here. And often when a parent dies, what do the kids immediately feel? Oh, we feel a bit scattered. Because oftentimes mom and dad tends to be that central rock of the family. There's always one figure in a family that unites us, isn't there? There's always that one person. It's the same thing with our faith. Jesus will enter into human history to bring us scattered humanity back around him. This family of God which now expands to the rest of the world. And in this beautiful mission, look at Mary. Mary says that she set out and traveled to the hill country in haste to the town of Judah. Again, why haste? Because Mary understands her role. This planned oracle of 800 years of the coming of Jesus, she understands that now is fulfilled and she is carrying within her womb this divine Davidic king. She understands her mission, that God will use this 15-year-old girl to bring about the union of all humanity again. She traveled in haste to the country of Judah, and she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. And Elizabeth was a high-ranking woman in Israel's time period. She was the spouse of a high priest. So she was ranking high in Israel's society. But notice now, Elizabeth, who's higher ranked than her cousin Mary, she says this. How does this happen to me that the mother of my Lord should come to me? The mother of my Lord is a king title, a queen title rather, the queen title of the king. So Elizabeth understands that Mary is the queen because of the one whom she bears in her womb is king. Because in the Jewish cultural political system, the queen wasn't the wife of the king. Rather, the queen was the mother. And so here's Elizabeth of high rank bows down before Mary. For the moment the sound of your greeting reached my ears, the infants of my womb leaped for joy. And now here it is to put an end in the conclusion. The Christmas trees, the lights, lights on the church, why the joy on Christmas Day when all of us are gathered here. It's because in Jesus, He will bring the union of humanity and the end to our darkness. Because now the family of God is brought back together.